I tweeted this out this morning. If you take the Chicago election results map and place it over a racial demographics map, what you get is probably unsurprising. Black neighborhoods voted for Lightfoot, a black woman. Hispanic neighborhoods voted for Garcia, Hispanic. And white neighborhoods voted for Vallis and some Johnson. Vallis is a white guy. Now, it's not absolute. Johnson is a black man as well. But this is a fascinating thing. Here's the map you can see. And the maroon is Vallis, a white man. The burnt orangish is Johnson, who is a black man. The purple is Lightfoot, you know Lori Lightfoot, they call her Beetlejuice, and the green is Garcia. Now, you may notice that there's a big chunk of green here and green here. Well, let's start with this. Here's a map of, it's really annoying that wait, let me see if I can shrink this down somehow. No, actually, I can't.
Scroll a little bit, maybe.
You can't scroll, won't let me scroll.
Oh, I see.
So, it is what it is. Actually, maybe I can do this. There we go. And now I can shrink it.
Yeah.
All right. Nope, still didn't work. All right, never mind. So you take a look at this. You know what? We'll just go right for the map. Here you go. Here's the race and ethnicity in Chicago map, and here's white. You can see up here on the top left near O'Hare, it's all white. You can see here, it's moderately white. You can see right here, it's all white. You can see down here, there's some white. You can see here, and then let's take a look at the election results map. Hey, look at that. The white area, the white area, the white area. They all voted for a white guy. Take a look at this. Let's go back and check out Hispanic. Here you got a big chunk right here in the middle, right here and down here. And what do you see? Go back to the electoral map. Hey, look at that. Right in the same place. They voted for the Hispanic guy. Now, hold on. Ward 10, you might say, voted for the white guy. Ah, yes. But 36% for Vallis, the white guy, and 35% for Jesus G. Garcia, the Hispanic guy. In a neighborhood that is mixed between white and Hispanic, they voted mixed. And then, of course, if you go back to the racial demographic maps and look at black, you'll see this whole area is black community and right here as well. And then you look at the electoral map, and sure enough, the only thing that apparently mattered to people in Chicago was the race of the candidate. How about that? I'm sure a lot of people were concerned about policy. I'm sure a lot of people, if you take a look at this area, Logan Square up to Rogers Park, this is the hipster portion. That's wokeness. These are the woke left people. And they voted for Johnson.
And he's to the left of Lightfoot.
There you go.
He's a
that
lot more,
it.
yeah.
So for them, it's policy, but they're also racist. So I'm unsurprised.
So there you go. Right.
Yeah, I was looking at the map and the breakdown, and I was wondering, why did Lori Lightfoot lose? She's an awful mayor. And here's the thing. Everybody's talking about oh, wow, she came in third place. She got defeated in a landslide. No, she didn't. She got the same amount of votes she got last time. The only difference, this time, white people voted.
Wow. The lockdown, the shutdowns. I'll call them shutdowns.
Crime.
And there were 8 candidates.
It was crime.
Crime as a result of the shutdowns.
Vallis ran almost exclusively on crime.
Crime as a result of ACAB.
Well, I mean, a lot of things. But you look at his website, and he's got a tab on the menu bar for issues, and then right next to it is crime. And then he's got a report crime. So his campaign website was encouraging voters to report crimes to him. That's how much crime motivated white people to vote.
Well, and what you're talking about, you know this because you're from Chicago, and I can say I'm from Chicago, or I cannot say it. Now that I'm outside, okay, suburban Chicago. I spent enough time there. But that pink area to the right is, that's a lot of lib, white, woke women in that area. So to
Which
see
one up
it,
here?
So Lincoln Park, so the loop up north, through Gold Coast, Lincoln Park, Wrigleyville, and then you start to get into the Johnson's area there. That's the wealthiest part of the city.
Yep.
So.
But even here on the southwest side.
But that's also an area that has always really been immune to crime, the Gold Coast, Lincoln Park. And that just has not been the case. So people who've lived there safely thought they could walk to the restaurants, that's,
I looked up
at the Gold Coast. It's locked down.
Yeah, I looked up Lori Lightfoot's election results, and she got 88,000 votes in the last election. Which wins of the race?
Which one? The first one?
Her previous election. And then this time around, she got, I think, what did she get? No, she got 92. She got 87,000 votes this time around, putting her in third place. If she got only a few thousand more, she would have beat Brandon Johnson. And then if she needed, 9,000? No, not even 7,000 more. Not even 7,000. Oh, I'm sorry, 17,000. My bad. About 17,000 more votes, and she would be in the runoff with Paul Vallis. And that's what happened last time. She got around 90,000 votes, went into a runoff, and then she won. My prediction, Brandon Johnson wins.
Okay.
Based on this map, showing you that the black neighborhoods voted if you look at the black neighborhoods, the top candidates votes, Lori Lightfoot, Willie Wilson, and Brandon Johnson. The top three, they're all black. If you look at the white areas, it's Paul Vallis, Brandon Johnson, Jesus Garcia. It's mixed. My prediction is the black neighborhoods will likely vote for the black candidate in the runoff, not the white guy, giving Brandon Johnson the tremendous advantage just to win. So it's kind of disheartening, to be completely honest, that you look at like the Hispanic neighborhoods and they just vote for the Hispanic guy, and the white neighborhoods voted for the white guy, and the black neighborhoods voted for the black lady. So what do you think is going to happen then? You're going to get, here's my prediction in the future. I think we're going to start seeing a tremendous amount of black politicians, and to a lesser degree Hispanic and Asian, but a tremendous amount. And the reason is conservatives don't care about race. If you have a Larry Elder or Thomas Sowell, conservatives are going to be clapping and cheering for him. They don't care what his race is. They care about the policies and the ideas. The liberals and the left are extremely racist. They won't vote for a white guy, which creates real problems for the Democratic Party. That's why they, want a Kamala Harris or something like that. So what'll end up happening is you're going to have, in this scenario, is a perfect example, Brandon Johnson, don't know his policies, don't know anything about him. But if we're seeing by neighborhood people vote predominantly based on race, what's going to happen? White people will be split between Vallis and Johnson, because you're going to get a mix of the college liberal types in Logan Square and Rogers Park who are racist, who won't vote for a white guy. Then you'll get the more urban conservative types who will vote for the tough on crime guy. Then you'll get the black neighborhoods voting for the black candidate, and you will ultimately end up with more black candidates winning in the long run.
Also, when a white person and a black person have a baby, they have a black baby. They call it mixed, but like Barack Obama, you call him a black guy. He had a white mother.
And this is something that I was told since I was a little kid, being mixed race. I was told that on the census, I am not a white person. Mm-hmm. That at even though I'm 75% white, according to the U.S. government, I am not white. That's how it works. So I'm like, I don't know. But my point ultimately is this: if conservatives are not racist and they're willing to vote for anybody, and the left is only willing to vote for minorities, that's going to create a tremendous pressure in one direction away from white candidates.
Well, I think in Chicago, and Johnson is far more progressive, even more so than she is. I think he wants a city income tax. I think he's defund the police guy. Was bolstered by the Chicago Teachers Union, the most powerful political interest group in the city by far. And I think after crime, education is a huge one. You have hugely dropping attendance and participation rates in Chicago public schools, especially after lockdowns. And of course, Chicago public schools had one of the longest lockdowns. And Paul Vallis, so education's a big issue. Paul Vallis is the former education secretary in the city. He worked for Rich Daley. I believe he was his education, you wouldn't call it secretary, head of education. So he's got a very strong background. I think he also was in Philly and a few other cities. So I think that is sort of his advantage. But I think, it wasn't that long ago, Chicago, they voted for Rahm Emanuel. Obviously, Rich Daley won, I don't know how many terms, 4. So you have Vallis, who is a daily Democrat, which a lot of people nowadays call Republicans, yep. Versus a very far left candidate in Johnson. So it's going to be a big.
You take a look at these the black neighborhoods, mm-hmm. and you can see that Lori Lightfoot, Willie Wilson, and Brandon Johnson are all at the top. In Ward 6, Lori Lightfoot has 38%, Willie Wilson has 22%, and Brandon Johnson has 18%. That means when it goes to the runoff, why would they vote for Vallis? They're going to vote for Johnson. He's their third pick, not Vallis. He gets their vote. And so then you look at Ward 11, Vallis and Johnson are, Vallis is 58% to Johnson's 14%, to Garcia's 13%, but I think Johnson still gets an advantage there. You take a look at the woke areas. Mm-hmm. I trust me, guys, if you don't know, Logan Square is woke as
I used to live there.
That's right, me too.
Well,
young
that's
hipster.
Northwestern is
yep.
north of there.
That's right. And you got like Loyola up here mm-hmm. as well. And so Brandon Johnson's already winning in these places. So then you look at this over here. Brandon Johnson's got 19%. Vallis has 50%. I think you give all of these areas already leaning slightly towards him. Plus, just take a look at the vote. Lori Lightfoot and Willie Wilson's votes. If you take 87, let's just call it 90 plus 45. So you're taking an extra 140,000 votes on top of Brandon Johnson. He crushes Vallis. I don't see Vallis picking up the rest of the votes. And I'm going to say it. I don't care what the left says. You can clearly look at these maps and see that people were just voting for the race of the individual. That's it. It makes, but you know what it could be? It could be simply put, if you're a guy, if you're from Little Village, if you're from Ward 12 and you're Hispanic, you know that community better. So it makes sense when you're campaigning and saying stuff like, hey, I'm going to help with these issues. The people who live there are like, hey, those are issues I know. And so Lori Lightfoot knows these areas. But as much as I think it's fair to say there's a component there, I really do think for the most part, the people in Chicago have proven they're simply voting based on race. Now, for the people who are voting for Paul Vallis, this is what I was saying. I think conservatives, for the most part, don't care. They're just like, if you're tough on crime, I'll vote for you. Lori Lightfoot is not tough on crime. That's why you can see up in these areas, Johnson gets a portion of the vote and Vallis gets a portion of the vote. He gets the most of the vote. But I just think it's clear as day right there that people just care about race.
Well, it's definitely, you're right. Your observation is correct that it is based, racially, how it's segregated is how it was voted. But correlation is not a proof of causation. So it's, keep that in mind when making claims about why people voted.
Sure. And that's why I said there's a possibility that, Garcia gives a campaign speech. And because his experience comes from the same neighborhood, it resonates with people in that neighborhood.
Does he speak Spanish?
Chuy Garcia?
That's a big... Who?
Yeah.
That's his name, Chuy Garcia.
Chuy? His real name is Chuy?
I think it's something else, but that's what they call him, Chuy.
So if you speak Spanish or your parents are from Mexico or something like that, then I could see why you would vote for someone that also spoke Spanish.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's been around for a while.
I mean, look, man, there's a reason why everybody lives next to the people of the same race. There's a reason why the neighborhoods are all segregated. People choose to do that. The government, like redlining and blockbusting ended. Blockbusting ended in the 80s. Redlining ended a long time ago. People now just choose to live next to people who they look like and look like them. So I think the Democrat critical race theory leftist stuff makes this worse and is exacerbating it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I believe that. The whole let's get a woman of color as our vice president, like that obsession with race and gender, or I guess sex and race, you're going to see it all over the place if you start doing that.
I mean, Chicago's always, but it's been a city whose politics has been run by race for a long time. I mean, you go back to the days of Harold Washington and, that whole wars of the early 1980s. That was, when he was the first black elected mayor, I think, in the country. Maybe he was the second. So it's not necessarily new, but I don't know. I'm going to disagree a little bit. I think there's different dynamics.
You think Vallis
for the runoff than just race. I just think it's a far more complicated, complex race. Maybe I'm being naive.
What do you think? What else do you think there is?
I think
education. Paul Vallis, his roots to the city. He's not like the old business guy or say a Rahm Emanuel or somewhere. He's got good credibility and a good background in what he's done for the city. And I do think his background in education, crime being the major issue there. I think what's happening in the schools is a major issue to a lot of these parents. Now, I mean, I don't think I'm being naive enough to think that, a lot of those neighborhoods, a lot of those wards, regardless of what situation they're in, would consider voting for Vallis. But I do think it's a little bit more nuanced, I think, than race.
I think that obviously there's a lot of things that play a role. When you look at the Rogers Park stuff, these are clearly, more white areas that are voting for a black man. Obviously, but that falls in line with that. There was a study done that shows the different racial breakdowns in their in-group, out-group preference. And white liberal is the only group with an out-group preference. It makes perfect sense when you look at this.
That's right.
So these neighborhoods, they probably care to a certain degree about policy. But I mean, you look at some of these places and it's like, in Ward 18, which is, I believe, it's probably Ford City area.
Okay.
You've got, actually, let's just do this. It's, so here we go. It's Ford City. You've got 15% or so white population, and I'm sorry, that's a black population. It's 22% white. It really does correlate. Like this area is split between white, black, is mixed. So you get Lori Lightfoot, then Paul Vallis. But then you go into the areas that are more heavily black, and it's Lori Lightfoot, Willie Wilson, and Brandon Johnson. Mm-hmm. Like even Johnson, who's far left. It seems like race played a bigger role than anything else. So I'm sure you could probably say 40% of the vote is due to good policy, but because of race being a predominant issue for most people, I guess, the way they see the world, that ended up being the dominant factor because that's what manifested in the map. Mm-hmm. You can come out and be like, no, everyone voted on policy. And I'm like, yeah, but if you look at the map, it's near 1-for-1 with the racial breakdowns of the city and who they voted for. That's kind of disheartening, isn't it?
Yes.
Maybe that's just reality. You can't feel one way or the other about it.
I was thinking yesterday or today, something like when we talk about race, like the people say white and black is a race, but it's the only ones that aren't like a country, I think. I mean, there's Latino, but is that a race?
Asians,
Asian's a continent. Like, so there's a Russian, they're from Russia, or like Caucasian, the Caucasus. Then all of a sudden you have black and white, which are like, what? How's that? There's black people all over the world, from Haiti and from Africa and from, East Asia and things like that. So like what? I don't know. I don't understand race. The whole concept of race is very weird.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.